Welcome to Home Sweet Home.
First down, say!
A New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Caesars New Orleans.
Hakeem drops the ball! Hakeem drops the ball! Brian Milne might have fallen on it at the 10-yard line!
You gotta be kidding me!
It is the New Orleans Saints football! There is a God after all!
Join us as we celebrate 50 years of cheers, tears, and celebrations we'll never forget on our home turf.
Look out, right through! A kick block by Steve Gleason. It is scooped and scored by Curtis DeLoach. Touchdown, New Orleans!
Hear from the players that made those unforgettable moments and those who were there to tell the story.
Snap, placement, kick by Hartley, and it is done! It's good! It's good! Pigs have flown! Hell is frozen over! The Saints are on their way to the Super Bowl!
Taking us on this half-century journey are your hosts, John DeShazier and Gus Kattengell.
The Saints win!
Welcome to Home Sweet Home, a New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Caesars New Orleans. John DeShazier, NewOrleansSaints.com, and Gus Kattengell with you, looking back and celebrating 50 years of the Dome being the home of your New Orleans Saints. And right to the left of you, my right here in the podcast studios where we record this, there's one framed photo I have, and that's Deuce McAllister taking a handoff. It's autographed by him. Even though he went to Ole Miss and I went to Southern Miss, and he likes to make fun of my school, but it is what it is. There's one game that I think of when I think of him and when I think of in the Superdome that just stands out. January 13th, 2007, Saints-Eagles playoff game. Saints win it 27-24, divisional round. It was literally the Saints going deuce here, deuce there, deuce everywhere on one drive that sealed the game.
Yeah, Saints basically said, here's what's coming, stop it, if you can. And then Deuce had kind of morphed into a power back. Deuce in his heyday at, Ole Miss and his first couple of seasons with the Saints, I don't know how many guys the franchise had in history who were 220, 230 pounds, who ran like the wind. And that was Deuce. I mean, Deuce could hit a seam. I remember his first NFL touchdown and I think it was a 50-yard run against the Falcons. He got into a seam, and the big dude, the defense had the angle on him, and he just outran him. He just outran the angle, and it was like, who does that at that size?
Right.
But he was phenomenal. But then after the knee injuries, he transitions to more of a power back, and for that situation, that game, it was like the Saints said, look, we're going to grind you to death, and this is the guy we're going to do it with, and we can probably point to where he's going to run. We got some guys on the offensive line who know what they're doing, and we got a guy who can run you over, run through you. He might not be able to run away from you anymore, but we'll give it to him, and we're just going to punch you in the face until you can't take it anymore. And that was Deuce in that game. He was the hammer. He was the punch. He was the balled up fist in Philly's face. And the Saints said, look, you want to play bully ball? Here we go.
They were down 21-13 in the third quarter. And the drive that I was talking about, 16 plays, 77 yards in the fourth quarter. And then on the final drive, the game-winning field goal there as well. Deuce ran 143 yards, 2 TDs. It was the first postseason win since Hurricane Katrina. Just so much into it. Reggie gets destroyed on that screen pass at the beginning of the game. I mean, it's the Eagles. It's just so much history when it comes to the postseason between those two teams. But that drive, that play, and that's why he's so beloved. And now to see him in his current role, as we're about to hear from him, not only about that game, but his time with the team and now moving on and doing it. I think of the Saints right now, man. I think of Deuce McAllister.
Yeah, Deuce is one of those kind of guys who, if you have a problem with Deuce, there's probably something wrong with you. Because, and I'm able to say this because, I think we both count him as a friend, which a lot of times you're not able to do with guys of that stature. But he is so approachable. He's so friendly. He's so down to earth. and he's just Deuce. He's just, he's just Deuce. And you appreciate that about him because he understands his role and his stature within the Saints community, but he never seems like a guy who takes it too far. He's never been a guy who holds it over you. He's not a guy who, again, is not approachable. You see Deuce probably in a grocery store, and Deuce will probably sign an autograph for you and take a picture with you. If he's just not a guy who feels like he's bigger than bigger than everybody else. He's just a regular guy, and I appreciate that so much about him because, again, he's really approachable. But back then, if you put those pads on him, and put that helmet on him, and said we got an assignment for you, he'd carry it out.
And it was interesting to hear him talk about his broadcasting career because I think from hey, I'm going to give this a try to you can tell the preparation, you can hear. But he has all of that combination. So many of these highlights we've heard and these things. I mean, the great Hokie Gajan, Jim Henderson and stuff, they brought their own uniqueness to everything. And what I love about Deuce is the perspective of I played. I understand the pain, the hurt, the joy, how tough it is to watch a game unfold when it's not going your way. When it is going your way, he gives loves to the big. He sees things on the field that are happening. And it's such a unique perspective because that's how he played. Right? I mean, we covered him towards the end, and from the beginning of that career, you did it a little bit longer than I did, but he doesn't do anything half what, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. And to hear him now, where he is a couple of years into the broadcasting career, I'm not shocked at all. I mean, you put it in, and I purposely tune in to hear what's going on here. Why can't the Saints get a first down? What's happening with the line? And he knows exactly how to relate it to the fan.
Deuce knows stuff. Deuce is Nostradamus. Is it Nostradamus? Nostradamus.
Deuce-stradamus?
Yeah, I've called him Deuce-stradamus before because Deuce will specifically call a play.
Mike Haas says that all the time.
Yeah, he will specifically call out a play. They're going to go to so-and-so and so right here, or so-and-so and so is going to be open, or you can do. I mean, he sees it and knows it, which to me is the kind of knowledge that you want from a guy in those situations. You want to kind of have a feel for, okay, this is the possibility of what could happen. And if they're looking at this thing the same way I am, this guy's going to be wide open. And so it's uncanny. I mean, he had maybe like 4 or 5 of those last year where he was spot on and called it exactly the way it was. And it was like, this dude is really good at this. He understands exactly what he's looking at, and he understands exactly how to tell the fan, this is what should happen right here. Might not happen, but this is what should happen when you get this look on defense or you get this look on offense.
Yeah, helps you understand the rhyme and the reason. Enjoy our conversation with Deuce McAllister. JD, we've looked at games, and there's always a time or a series or a play or something where you're like, the old saying or adage, everyone in the building knows that this player is getting the football, whether it's a run or whether it's, a play. And in that game, in that playoff game against the Eagles, Deuce McAllister basically said, give me the ball. Everybody get out the way. I can't think of another moment, man, in that game or really a time in that dome where everybody knew what was coming and they couldn't do anything about it.
No, here's the thing, though. It kind of goes against – it went against the nature of Sean Payton, right? You think about Sean Payton, you think about pitching it around the field. You don't think about Sean Payton as hand it to your running back, let him stick his nose up in there. We know we're going to run it. You think about Sean Payton as, okay, Drew Brees completes 28 passes to 9 different receivers. And they spread the ball around. You didn't think of him as a coach who said, okay, we're going to win this game by this means. We're just going to grind it out. We're going to give it to Deuce. We're going to win the game. They know we're going to run it. We know they can't stop it, so we're just going to keep doing it. There were some occasions where he did that, but not a lot of occasions where he did that. And this is one where he did it in the Superdome in a playoff game, and, of course, the fans went wild. But, it was one of those things where, and this was not the Deuce McAllister who came into the NFL, who was that 220, 225-pound running back who ran away from people. This was the Deuce McAllister who, okay, give it to me. We're going between the tackles. stop it if you can. Here it comes. Get it. Come get it. And so that's what made this stand out as much as anything because, this was one of the games about Deuce. I remember this game more than because I think Deuce's first touchdown was like a 50-yard run against the Falcons, was it not? Where he just hit a seam, and it was like you don't see dudes that big run that fast. But this was the other side of him where it was like, okay, come get it. If you want it, come get it. Because it was one of those where at that point in the game, you knew that they knew what was going to happen. And I'm sure the dudes in the secondary was like, we don't want to have to tackle him. We don't want to be bothered with this. And it was one of those where a test of wills. It was grown men saying, I am going to impose my will on you, and there is nothing you can do about it. And that's old school football. That's what people want to see.
Did we describe it appropriately there?
You described it pretty appropriate, and just some of the backstory, just going into that, and most people will probably remember and know it. That was my first time being in the playoffs. I had never been in the playoffs prior to that. And so for me, as a player, you always kind of, and this is aging ourselves a little bit, you always picked up the paper on Mondays. What did the top back do? What did LaDainian Tomlinson do? What did Sean Alexander do? What did Priest Holmes do? You wanted to beat those numbers. Now we can look at the phone. We can look at we can get it instantly. But then you kind of had to wait, or you went on television and Sports Center to kind of see the numbers, the carries. So for myself, from trying to prove that you were one of the better backs, one of the elite backs, it was having the opportunity to play in the playoffs. Because as much as you were on Monday Night Football or Friday night or Thursday or whatever it may have been, very few fans saw you or recognized you if you weren't in a big market or if you were not consistently in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I was excited to be in the playoffs, first and foremost. Then you were playing a team that I had a tremendous amount of respect for. Andy Reid, obviously, was the coach at that time. We know he's now at Kansas City. Well, Coach Jim Johnson was a defensive coordinator. And when you look at that roster, you've got Pro Bowl, and Hall of Fame players. And if they weren't, they were going to be Hall of Fame players on that defense. One of the safeties, Brian Dawkins, I have the most respect for because of the type of player he is and he was. And, we had some common friends as well. Jeremiah Trotter, tremendous amount of respect. He was a Mike linebacker. And so a defense that you respected, a team that had been to the NFC Championship game, they had been, they were the model. You wanted to be like the Eagles. So for me to have the opportunity from a personal standpoint of proving that I am just as good as some of the other elite backs, but also I loved playing against that team because they were a really good defense. And commenting on the Sean part, I knew if I only gained 1 or 2 yards, the ball was going in the air. The ball was going to be thrown. And after about 2 to 3 carries, I remember him and kind of Drew asking me, was I okay? And I told him, just give me the ball. Just give me the ball. And there's a play in there at the end where if I didn't get it 5-6 times in a row, there was maybe one pass in there. But at the end of it, I was totally exhausted because I knew that I had left everything that I had on that field. And just to hear the crowd, the appreciation and the thankfulness that, man, this team, after all we've been through, we get a chance to advance. We get a chance to advance. And, JD, the reason the 4.3 or the 4.4 speed wasn't there anymore, because of the knees.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because of the knees.
Okay.
And so for me, I had to change my game.
Yeah.
Because coming into the league, I wanted to run away from people. And most people, they don't realize, like, no, you wanted to bank. No, I wanted to run away from people.
Yeah.
The first touchdown, Atlanta Falcons, left side, toss sweep, Willie Roaf was the blocker. And I'll never forget, Willie told me, hey, Rook, just stay right here on my hip. And I listened to him. And so after the injuries, the ankle, the knee injuries, it's okay, you've got to change the game. And if you're able to break off a 40 or 50, that's great. But you've got to average 4.5, 5 yards a carry, and it can be inside. And that's kind of, at the latter part of my career, that's what it became.
I don't think it's blasphemous to say this. That's Gale Sayers. Gale Sayers was an elusive Hall of Fame running back for the Bears, and Gale Sayers shredded his knee before there was modern technology and surgery, and had to change his game, and became a 1,000-yard back that way. And that was kind of Deuce. Deuce, had the knee injuries and had to change his game. But you get in a situation like that, and it's the playoffs. And what is it like, I guess, to be in that kind of zone? And that's the fans saying, basically Deuce. Basically, Sean Payton, give it to him. Don't. And I know you had to say it to him too, also. But what's it like to be in a zone in that kind of game where you feel like every time I touch it, something good's going to happen?
Well, you got a chance to score. I mean, and that's literally what it was. It may not have been going 40 or going 50, but I could get you 5 to 10 yards. And it became manipulating the defense. And it was not only with your eyes, but with your blocks, and obviously setting those blocks up. Because by that time, there's not a lot of new plays that either team is really running. So you're going to go and lean on who you are and what you do well. They knew what we did well. I knew what we did well. But there's only so much from a defensive standpoint that they can do. And after that, you can make somebody wrong. They could be perfect, right defensive call, right front, but now somebody has to make a play. You can either manipulate them with your eyes or you can manipulate them with your track. And what I mean by track is how I get to a certain spot. And so you're playing games with them at that standpoint. Because if I've had success with the same play earlier in the game, they see the same formation, they see a similar formation. Now, instead of me hitting it in the A gap, I'm going to just slightly lean left to get back to the A gap. But I'm presenting that I'm leaning left to go wider. And that's all you really need. And having a conversation with your offensive line to be able to tell them, hey, look, I may lean a little bit, but I'm getting back to the A gap. I may show that I'm getting outside, but you don't have to pull. You don't have to hold, because I'm getting back to the A gap because I want that guy just to lean a little bit more. And the other part of that you cannot forget, you still had number 9 at quarterback.
Yeah.
So if they don't respect his ability as well, then they're going to get burned on that end. But for me, being able to manipulate the defense with your eyes and your track, it just became, I don't want to call it easy, but it became almost cat and mouse game.
See, that's Deuce Nye, the science guy, and that's really detailed. Now I got to take you back. Third quarter, Saints are trailing 21-13.
Yep.
You have a 7-play, 63-yard drive that finishes with a 5-yard touchdown run. Deuce McAllister. You pulled it within 21-20. Same quarter, 9 plays, 68-yard drives, 11-yard TD catch. Drew to Deuce McAllister. You look back, you're in that situation. Do you feel like we just need the ball, we're going to score?
You felt that way, but at the same time, you still had to go and execute.
Because they had just hit like, I think, three plays, 78-yard touchdown drive to open the second half, and it's like, okay, this don't look so good.
Well, and let's go counter.
Yeah.
and let's go counter. And JD, here's what's funny. That last touchdown pass was how far?
11
yards.
Uh-huh.
That play was Titan. I was not supposed to be in the game for that play. That play is a Reggie Bush play. We got caught either late. With the huddle call or the formation where Reggie couldn't get in. And I'll never forget Sean telling or yelling, "You better run it right." I knew the play. I just didn't get a chance to run it a lot. Because, like you said, at that point in my career, I was considered more of an inside guy. It is the same swing screen pass that we scored against Dallas on, if you remember the returning to Dallas. Reggie had the big play. You've got JB out front. He zigzags for about 50 to 60 yards. It's the same play. The play is Titan. Drew can check it to a run. If you get man-to-man, he checks it to the pass. You get the underneath pick from the receiver. Now you've just got to beat one guy one-on-one, and that's who it was, Trotter, that I was able to beat. But that is a play, traditionally, if you go back and look at any of the times that we ran that play that year or in the past, really since, we drafted Reggie, that was Reggie's play. That was Reggie's play. And so I knew I had to go and do something, and like I said, Coach Payton, he was like, you better not screw it up or mess it up, and, to go in and score on it. That felt pretty good. But you knew that we had to go and score. We knew that we had to go kind of blow for blow with the Eagles because offensively, like you talk about some of the weapons and some of the guys that they had and the success, Coach Reed, obviously we knew we were in for a battle.
You've seen some big games in the Superdome. You've played in some big games in the Superdome. What's it like to be in that situation in the Superdome in a playoff game? It's delirium inside, and you've got to keep your wits about you. But meanwhile, there's this, I don't want to say circus atmosphere, but it's one of those where these are ravenous fans who want to see success.
They want to see success. They want you to do well. They're cheering you on. So you can take it in, but when you're on the field, the focus has to be on the focus. And that's going out and executing and doing your job. But I wouldn't tell anybody to block it out completely. Because when you see it and experience it, it was like, man, this is fun. This is what you want to play for, to be able to give back to these fans that maybe you didn't have a lot of success, and now you're actually in the playoffs, and they're excited. You're excited to be able to go out and show the other teams what it's all about.
What's it like to have that, me and Gus will never know this, to have that adulation just washing over you after you score back-to-back touchdowns in a situation like that? Because, it's got to be like, you are one of the iconic Saints players in history, but it's got to be like, this is the epitome of what it's like.
This is what it's about. And that's what it is. Yeah. This is that's what you're thinking physically and mentally. It's like, man, this is what it is. This is what playoff football is all about. And what's interesting is you go and tell the defense after they've given up one, and now you're getting into the third and fourth quarter. And it's basically, going to a Will Smith, or you go to Scott Fajita and you tell him, if you hold him, I will do my part. I'll make sure that we close this deal out. And I think if I remember correctly, when we got the ball back, it was roughly 6.5, maybe 7 minutes, roughly. And so that means, when you start getting into it, you need at least 3 first downs, 4 first down possibly. And so just knowing how the game flows and knowing the numbers, You'll tell your defense, if you hold them offensively, I got it.
I think that was the thing that really stood out to me in that game. Was that what you just said? It was, hey, we're going to run the football. We're going to, control the clock and just go out there and win the game. And when I think about it, JD, what a pair of bookends in home games. And what I mean by that is obviously the first home game that season was the Monday night game against the Falcons. The last home game that season was to go to the NFC Championship game and a playoff game. It's really incredible when you think of the first home game that year to the last home game that season, where, it's incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, Gus, and you probably never even thought of it in that way, because as a player, you take it one game at a time, but you break the season really down in quarters. Mm-hmm. So to go back and say, oh, remember opening of the Dome? It's almost like, wait, that was the same year, because you have
looking at the data on my sheet of paper
because you have so much that transpires.
Yeah,
and I'll never forget. After the fact, we weren't picked to go to the playoffs.
No,
we weren't even nowhere close to picking to go to the NFC Championship game. And then the records and the scheduling felt right for us because we were 10-6. Normally, that's nowhere close enough to get you a bye. Mm-hmm. But we were able to get a bye because of that record and who you beat and kind of how it all unfolded. And so, man, it was just it was an unbelievable year. And that doesn't happen without the fans. Obviously, you have to go out and make plays, but the extra energy that they gave us, that doesn't happen without them.
They had to have it. They had to have it as much as the team had to. Did any of the dudes, anybody from Philly, come up after the game and like, man, we couldn't stop y'all?
Well, it was Coach Reed. I mean, because me and Coach Andy Reid had a really, really good relationship. That was probably one of the teams coming out that I visited and I talked to. And so my second year, he was the coach of the NFC Pro Bowl team. So you get to meet him a little bit more. I knew Coach Bobby, who was the running back coach at that time. Coach Juan Castillo, he was I think he was the offensive line. So you knew a lot of their staff just because you had spent so much time with them as well. And I think they had, maybe it was Ricky Waters at the time that was a running back. It was Ricky Waters. Going into at least my rookie year when they could have, drafted me, but it didn't happen. But I still, you had the relationship from visiting and spending time with them leading up to that draft process.
It's interesting. One of the things that I think kind of also stands out just looking back at that time and how the league has gone, and now you calling games and looking at it, the passing game, obviously, this league became a passing league. And I have felt the last 2 years, it almost feels like that run game's coming back, man. Are you sort of seeing that too? Because especially when you start looking at the postseason, the teams that were able to run the football, have success between the tackles. I look at the Eagles. I know they put up a lot of points, but so much of that is because of what Jalen Hurts can do on the ground. And you're seeing teams that have backs, man, are successful again. Are you seeing that? Is that fair to say that the run game's important?
I definitely think so. And there was a transition to the passing game because you look at all of the great quarterbacks of what they could do and how you can accumulate yardage through the air, and then the rules of how you could protect the quarterback a lot better or more. And now it's easier to be able to say, oh, I can just stand back there and throw the football and you can't touch my quarterback. Now, obviously, we know teams can touch them, but it's there comes with maybe a penalty or two if you touch them a little bit different. The last couple of years, you have seen the emphasis on the run game, and that's because of how defenses play. So if I am going to not give up explosive plays, I'm going to take one of the safeties out of the box. So now I'm playing, cover 2, cover 4. Well, from a perspective of running the football, if you're not putting 8 in the box, the numbers favor you. I can run the football now, and I have angles and blocks. For running back, and the challenge is always my offensive line. If you can take care of the first level and get a hat on the second level, if you leave me one-on-one with the safety more than 3 times and I don't break it, shame on me. That's a challenge to the running back. Mm-hmm. You have 3 opportunities with a safety. He cannot tackle you on all 3. You have to be able to get an explosive play in one of those situations. That takes you to elite. Because if the safety can tackle you every time, you're a good running back. You're not an elite running back. And it's no knock against being a good running back. But tell me how many times that you're going to be able to block up all 7 guys. Very few times. So if you can get one-on-one with a safety 3 times, one of them have to be a house call. And so that's just some of the stuff that I was taught as a player, that I can get you. We can block the first and second level. That safety, that guy has to be on you. And so it's interesting, and I know this is about the game, but what I want to tell you is, had the opportunity to sit down with Derrick Brooks my second year in the NFL. Had the opportunity to sit down with him at the Pro Bowl. And what I wanted to know was, how was he calling out our plays in our games, 2 games that we played against him, because obviously they were division rivals. And that's when I knew that I wasn't studying enough as a player, because he's calling it out. Now, he doesn't know the name, but he's pointing, it's coming right here. I'm looking at, am I giving the play away? I'm looking at, is my distance giving the play away? But it was based off of down and distance. It may have been an offensive guard or offensive lineman, his stance when we run this play, he's giving it away. Or based off of tendencies as a play caller or a system, this is what you like to do based off of that player, that personnel grouping, X, Y, Z. So when you start to self-scout, you start to see some of that. But a great player, he's going to pick it up really easy. He'll pick up tendencies. They will pick up tendencies. And that's when I knew that I wasn't watching nearly enough film. And that's where being able to manipulate guys that do watch film and guys that do go off of, he's a 7. Well, these are the plays that they run out of 7 yards. From 7 yards, this is the play that they can run. So, okay, you do know that. So we're going to run maybe an oddball play for you where it throws you off. And I'm going to run a passing play where it throws you off. So now you can't have so many keys on what I like to do. But there will be situations where I don't care if you do know what's coming. We're going to run it, and you've got to stop it. And now I can manipulate you with my eyes and my track. And so that's just the game inside the game that you see really, really high-level players play.
Now, are we seeing this with you as a as a color analyst radio? Because you turned into Deuce Stradamus a couple times and called it like, okay, I like this and this, and it was like, look at Deuce. I mean, it was like, look at Deuce. And you did that how many times last year? It had to have been at least 3 times where you specifically called a play. How much of that, just being around the game and knowing the game allows you to be able to do that? Because, you hear a lot of knowledgeable people, and I don't want to knock them, but it's rare that you have a guy, and I don't listen to everybody, but it's rare that you have a guy who will specifically call out, this is the guy who should get the ball against this look.
Here's what's funny, and I don't want to brag, because I've been tremendously blessed. I've been tremendously blessed by some great teachers, Coach Cutcliffe, Mike McCarthy, obviously Sean Payton. Those were my coaches, those who taught me the game of football. I watch it, I listen to it, but I've been just tremendously blessed to have a feel for it as well. 2 weeks ago, the Chargers, we didn't connect on it, but the double move to Austin, I called it. For a player, I guess it's a feel as well, and understanding where you are and seeing what a team is doing. And so that's from a broadcasting analysis to be able to say, okay, this is what I see would work at this time. Now, the team obviously they don't have to call it, or they don't know it. Sometimes they do, but at the same time, it's a feel. And I've never been privy to say, hey, these are the plays that we're running this week. Yeah. That's high level TV broadcast that's going to get access to that. Some things of that. Now we can, you're going to watch some practice reps and some stuff like that to be able to really hone in and know when a team is going to use it based off of formation. Then that's a guy that he studied a ton of film, but he also remembers, this is the look. This is the play that they're about to run. And so you get a feel for it. You get a feel for it. And so, like I said, I've been taught by some of the greatest coaches, I think, as far as offensive guys, just the game of football. And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy sharing that knowledge and being able just to be able to tell fans, hey, this is what should happen. This is what's coming. This is the penalty. This is why the penalty was called. Being able to go through that rules book, and it's not a thin one, and just to be able to say, okay, this is the penalty. This is why it was called, or this should have been the penalty. This is why it should have been called. And it's just teaching the game.
2 quick things for you that I think would be interesting kind of perspective for fans listening to. I'm not saying we forgot or don't look back at some of the older running backs from yesteryear, but, looking at that date, right, that 2006 season to really now. I look at the media guide, and when I look at the records, it's you, it's Mark Ingram, and it's Alvin Kamara, right? I mean, those 3 backs that really are along the top. You've got to watch those 2, and obviously Alvin's still playing. And we got a chance to talk to him about his 6-touchdown game. Very similar to you about speaking about the game in a certain way, about the game within the game, the studying element to where he walked out. I looked at JD, I'm like, this guy's football IQ is nuts. Is that what it takes to be that high-level back? That it's not just I'm fast, I'm strong. It's understanding what I'm seeing before that ball is snapped and all that. And did those 2 guys really show that and showcase that?
Yeah, I mean, Mark's a Heisman Trophy winner. So, I mean, I was fortunate enough to play with 2, obviously Ricky and Reggie. I mean, you're special for a long time being able to win a Heisman. So, I mean, the talent is definitely there. Now, can it translate to the NFL? And both of those guys have been able to translate to the NFL as far as the talent. One of the things that I learned early on in my career, you're probably just playing the game. And that's no different than any other person. Probably a quarterback, he's studying the most. But as a young player, you're just playing. You're not truly seeing the game as it will or you should as you get older. And what I mean by that is understanding what defenses are truly doing. Yeah, I can tell you that's a 4-3 defense, a 4-2 defense. Okay, tell me where the weak spot in that defense is. What are you looking at? Well, I'm looking at the safety come down. When he buzzed down this way, where's the other safety have to go? So it's how can you manipulate the defense on what they want to do? Mm-hmm. And now that's where the game, when guys tell you the game is slowed down for a player, that's what they mean. Because before the ball is snapped, just like you talked about, I may not be as quick as I once was, but I know exactly where I'm going. I can't tell you that was the case when I was maybe my first, second, or even third year. Mm-hmm. Because then you want a player to still react, but now I can react because I know exactly where I'm going because the defense has told me this is where the ball should go. And one of the things I took, particularly with playing with Drew Brees and his knowledge of the game, and it's no knock against any of the other quarterbacks that I played with, but I wanted to know just as much as Drew Brees. I wanted to know the other 9 guys. I mean, obviously, I know the quarterback is the 10 and I'm the 11, mm-hmm. but the other 9 guys, what's his job? What's his job? Because if I'm the last guy that has to help one of those offensive linemen, then I know his job. Now, from a route combination, it's not just what's the play. Okay, what's the running back do? I don't need to just know what I do. Why are we running this route? And so after you know that, okay, so who's the best player on that defense? 73. He's going to normally be in the B gap or A gap. What option am I? I'm the 4th option. So that normally means if Drew is getting in trouble, mm-hmm. I'm not getting the ball. Mm-hmm. So, hey, how about I let my guard know I'm going to come through your gap. I'm going to come through inside so you can be heavy outside. And if 73 shows, I'm going to block him, and then I'm going to let him go so you can get back on it. Having that communication with your offensive line, it makes it so much more easy.
Instead of just standing there.
And, well, not only instead of just standing there, you can go and show and get to your spot as a running back. But if the quarterback isn't ready to throw you the football, you aren't going to get it anyway.
Yeah.
And so now it's just being able to play in cohesion with those 5 up front to be able to say, okay, the left tackle, right tackle, they're good. Let me help the guys inside. Well, if the center is uncovered, he can go right or left to the guard. Now I can go help the other guard. And I'm not helping. I'm just making sure he's secure. Because it's one thing to knock him off. Mm-hmm. Now he loses his battle. But if he knows he's got help or presence somewhere, then that gives him the peace of mind. Now, that doesn't happen every play because some plays you're going to be hot, and I have to get out of there. He's on his own. But you can help him more than you think. And that's just not the guard. That's, wherever the presence has to come.
Yeah. How long did you have to, I guess, how long did it take you to mentally adjust, I guess, to change your game? Did you mourn the loss of the old Deuce McAllister, the big, swift, fast dude? Did you, as you're transitioning, you're thinking, man, I used to be able to do that, and your mind's telling you, yeah, you can still do that, but your body's saying that's not you anymore. How was that a difficult? Was that a difficult transition?
Very tough, very tough, because mentally, I'm knowing I'm faster than this guy.
Yeah,
I'm knowing if I can get just to that corner, it's over. But you get to the corner and you can't get there anymore. And so now it's like, all right, I get to the corner, I got to put my foot down, and I've got to just lean on him a little bit. And maybe after 4 plays of doing that, the big play comes. Mm-hmm. And then you still question, okay, I can't take it 50 anymore. My big run has to be a plus 30. And so for me, mentally, that was tough. I felt like once I cleared the first 2, the third guy wasn't going to catch me. But after, like I said, you have the high ankle sprain and then you have the knee surgery, my longest rush after that may have been 40 yards, 30 yards. And that was early in my career. If I didn't get 20 or 30 yards, one rush of 20 or 30 yards, I felt like that was a failure. That was a failed game for myself. Because like I said, if you get up on a safety 3 times, you've got to be able to beat him. You've got to be able to beat him one time. Mm-hmm. And so it was just changing from a mentality of, okay, you may not have the plus 40, plus 50 yards anymore, but you can go get plus 20, plus 30.
Finally, man, I'll wrap up just by asking the importance of a back now. You talked about having a guy like Drew Brees next to you, in this season in 06 and in this game in 07 in the playoffs. You got essential rookie QB this season for the Saints, even if it's Spencer or if it's Tyler Shuck. The importance of being able to have that back, man, and be able to not only help with plays on the field, but to your point, too, a little nudge here in the huddle, this guy's kind of doing that. How important is a guy like Alvin and just really that backfield is going to be this season for the Saints?
They have the great competitor in Alvin Kamara. He's so smart. He's obviously a talented player. And the challenge, and, I've obviously talked to Alvin. It's not only for him, because he knows it, he sees it, but can he get his other young backs to know it and see it? Some of them will be able to pick it up, not fairly easy, but they will be able to pick it up and feel comfortable with them. Because with both of those young quarterbacks, maybe it's something as subtle as stepping up 1 yard, 2 yards on a play. I have pressure coming. I'm going to cheat up 1 yard, 2 yards, but I've got to tell the quarterback I'm going to cheat up 1 yard or 2 yard. Because if not, he may snap the ball. It's legal procedure. Or he may snap it not knowing what you're doing. So it's just having that communication with him that, hey, if this guy in the A-gap comes, allow me to step up 1 or 2 yards, or I'm going to step up. I still may have front side 4 or back side 4. That's still mine. So don't feel just because I've stepped up that I can't get to where I have to get to. Always having a conversation when you break the huddle, hey, if you need me, I'll be there. And he's got that. But he's got to know from a quarterback's perspective where is there. So you've still got to get to your area. Mm-hmm. But I'm having that conversation with my offensive line prior to us going out, or as soon as the huddle is broke, hey, Fuaga, I got you. I'm on your side. I'm inside. I'll be on your inside. So if the guy comes inside, I'll be there for you. And now he knows that he's got inside help. Or I'm going to tell him I'm chipping out. He knows exactly what chipping out means. So we're just having that conversation. So now it's sealed as far as the offensive line. Quarterback's comfortable. If the quarterback needs to come to me immediately, he doesn't have anything down the field, he can come to me. When you talk about depth on routes, there's a responsibility for the running back to be at X. Okay, if you're 1 yard short of that, on some routes you can be 1 yard short. Certain routes, if your depth is 4, get to 4. If your depth is 6, you've got to get to 6. Mm-hmm. But normally that means you have a hot release, and now I'm not blocking. The game has to be in unison, and the unison is with a lot of different guys. And so being able to take some of the pressure off of the quarterback from the backfield is what's imperative, because you and the tight end can help him so much. You can help him so much, not only from a blocking, but just being that outlet.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we think of the run game helping the quarterback because obviously the defense has to respect the run game. But to your point, it's a lot of mental little things, even if the ball's not going to him, that he can help out. Mm-hmm. Love that, man. Well, don't let anybody say the playoffs don't matter. You got to play in that playoff game, and it's still a game that I still will never forget. I was a fan that day on the end zone in that final drive there, and I will never forget what that dome was like, man. It was awesome.
It was special.
Yep. Thank you for recanting that with us, man.
No problem.
Thank you, Deuce.
JD, I can do that for a while. I'm not going to lie. I just love listening to him talk. I love hearing his passion. And look, man, in that game in particular, I have the one signed piece of memorabilia in my office that they just embodied. In a lot of these, when we talk about these games, from Hall of Famers like Morton Anderson, Drew Brees, and all that, these players that made these big moments, listening to Garrett Hartley and Tracy Porter in all of these series, they understand and embody the relationship between this city and this organization?
Let me tell you something. My wife, who is not a great football fan, she kind of sort of follows peripherally. She'll go to games, but she doesn't really know a whole lot of folks and a whole lot of this or that and, all that kind of stuff. And she really doesn't get really carried away with it too much. But the one autograph she wanted was Deuce's. She got, she hounded me and I was like, I don't know when I'm going to see Deuce to get this autograph. And she was like on me for months. And I finally said, Deuce, you're going to have to give me your autograph on this football or I'm not going to be able to go home. I'm going to probably have to end up getting a divorce because my wife has got to have this football. And she wants your autograph on this football. You got to do this for me. He's like, no problem. But it's
exactly.
But it's like, that's the guy she wanted his autograph. And so, Deuce, if you know Deuce at all, you understand why people flock to him. You understand, he's such a humble guy. And even now, when Alvin Kamara breaks his records or Mark Ingram broke his records or anybody surpasses the mark, Deuce is the most humble guy about it. It's like, they're made to be broken. And, he's a great player. And, he's willing to give advice to younger guys. If they ask him, he's willing to be open and share with whomever there is that wants to know something. And that's one of the things I appreciate about him most.
John DeShazier, NewOrleansSaints.com. I'm Gus Kattengell. Hope you've enjoyed this episode as you've been listening to Home Sweet Home, a New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Caesars Sportsbook. We'll see you next time on Home Sweet Home.
Thanks for listening to Home Sweet Home, a New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Caesars New Orleans.
Favre sprints to his right, throws back across the middle, and he's intercepted. Porter.
For the latest on the black and gold, check out NewOrleansSaints.com. And be sure to check out the New Orleans Saints podcast for the latest news from your favorite team.
Will he get it here? Yes! Touchdown pass, 5-4-0 in the 504.
We'll catch you next time on Home Sweet Home.